Previously on X-Men.
Let's rearrange the letters of S Triad. TARDIS.
Sutekh being Susan Triad technology. Sutekh. So Sutekh could be the one using Susan Triad as a puppet to stream her through the timelines.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Call me a certified genius. I accurately predicted part of the first part of the finale. Woo! Oh, yeah. What I got right. So I got the Sutekh anagram, and I got the Mrs.
Susan
Blood
Triad
isn't the bad guy, but I didn't put the two together. I was so close, yet so far away. I'm taking the win. Welcome back to another discussion of the latest episode of Doctor Who, the legend of Ruby Someday. I genuinely love this episode. A couple episodes this series, I felt like I've had to Stockholm Syndrome and gaslight myself into saying that I like them, you know what I mean? Which, I do like most of the episodes. Not Space Babies, but this one was genuinely, I had a fun time with it. I think it was way better paced than the rest of the episodes this series, and I think that's down to it being a two-parter. So it gives the story a bit of time to breathe, man, you know what I mean? It's been all go, all the time, from the start. I miss the chill down time we have in the TARDIS, where we get to hang out with the characters. But this episode was definitely more well-paced. And the build-up to Sutekh was genuinely tense. I really enjoyed that. I clocked it pretty early, because obviously I'd been theorising about Sutekh. So I had it in my mind. I was like, And when they turned that first guard into a sand, I was like, no way. They're not going to do that. Surely not. And boy, oh boy, they did. But the whole time they were building up, I was like, come on, surely not. On the edge of my seat, genuinely. I loved it. When the reveal came, I genuinely had an audible reaction. I was sat on my own in the living room and I went, no. I think Sutekh is a fantastic villain to bring back. And I'd never watched Pyramids of Mars until today. I watched it today, actually. I think a lot of new fans are like, why have they brought this guy back if they're trying to introduce new fans? Because I have no idea who it is. I'm a hardcore fan. I have no clue who this geezer is either, but I'm still excited, you know what I mean? Just do the smallest amount of research, a Google search if you're that curious, but I'm sure with it being a two-parter, they've still got a lot more explaining to do. They're gonna give us answers, they're not gonna leave us in the dark and expect us to know, surely. Hey, my dog has appeared. Look. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the episode, and then I'm going to talk a bit more about Sutekh, the villain himself, and the Pyramids of Mars, my opinion of that, and then my predictions for the future. I feel like this episode, Ncuti really came into his own a little bit more. The Doctor finally had time to shine, whereas most of the episodes, I feel like he's not had time to have those action sequences, moments of ultimate badassery, on his own, being the Doctor, because he spent one episode stood on the same spot the whole time, and then 2 Doctor Light episodes immediately after it, and that is a good quarter of the whole series, so that was a very poor choice for the first series. I've said it before, I'll say it again. However, this episode, Ncuti really did well as a Doctor. That moment where he's walking to Susan Triad with Mel Bush and he just pauses and punches the elevator and Mel's like, he has a moment of humanity there, which is a bit scary to see, but we know that that's an active trait within the Doctor's psyche. We see that because Mel Bush, who's known him a very long time, was just yeah, we known the Doctor be like this. I am so in love with Bonnie Langford. She's everything I aspire to be, ever. All I want to be in life is Bonnie Langford. Ruby, on the other hand, she's still growing on me. I'm still not keen. I'm really nervous of where they're going to take her for the second series, because every curiosity I have about her is going to be answered, and then I'm literally not going to care about her. I couldn't find it in me to care if she doesn't have the mystery surrounding her, you know what I mean? I feel like I don't know her as a person. We've not spent enough time with her for me to make a connection there. I also wish UNIT had a bit more of a consistent staff base, because just as I sort of get the hang of who's working at UNIT and what's going on over there, they changed all the staff and then I don't know it anymore, you know what I mean? It's different from even in The Giggle, which wasn't that long ago. I need some consistency in my life. I feel like that's been a real issue this whole series though, is just inconsistency. I made this, sort of analogy to my friends the other day. If you think about any series of Doctor Who prior to this, you could probably make a Pinterest board for it. Like, you could make a Pinterest board for the vibe of the series very easily, because they all have the same sort of imagery, vibes, you know what I mean? This series is so chaotic and random and sporadic that you could not do that. It does not have a vibe. It has no consistency in what sort of thing it's trying to do. And I think that makes it really hard to connect with. Because you can go from episode to episode and be like, oh yeah, I like this episode, not keen on this episode. But they're so sporadic and they're so disjointed from each other. It's hard to talk about the series as a whole because the episodes are so incomparable. The plotline of the episode did feel a lot like a very typical RTD series finale though, which I love. It will never beat the ones with the Master, John Sims, or like Journey's End. Journey's End is my favourite episode ever, so no series finale will ever top that, and if it does, I will eat my shorts. But quite frankly, it's not a bad series finale. I can definitely think of worse. And of course, I'm going to like the fact that it's an RTD feeling finale because I love RTD, which I am incredibly biased about, but at least I recognise it, and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong if you disagree with me, because everybody has their own tastes and it's a very subjective matter. It's all down to taste. I've got a friend who's a hardcore Moffat fan and he does not enjoy this new episode, and that's okay. I personally loved it, and I love RTD's flair and style with Doctor Who. It's what I associate with Doctor Who, so I'm perfectly happy with it being how it is at the moment. I like the tension of the plotline. I like the little breadcrumbs hidden throughout the series, and we could have pieced it together. We definitely could have done, and I think a lot of people probably have done, which I like that. I like being able to think about it and put things together. I find that so exciting. Ooh, the time window was cool. I like the graphics on how they made it all glitchy and weird and cool. The bit with Ruby's mum, who is she? I will get to that later. I like the concept of the time window because I think they can use that more. I feel like there's a lot they can explore with that sort of theme and that sort of technology that I would like to see in the future, because it's almost like a time machine, but not. Now let's talk about Sutekh, because I watched for the first time today Pyramids of Mars from 1975 with Tom Baker, and I really enjoyed it. I don't watch much classic Who whatsoever, but I thought, you know what, I've got a spare hour this afternoon, I'll watch it. So I did, and it was hype. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun episode. I like the villain of Sutekh. I think he's really... It feels like an Avengers level threat. You know what I mean? Like, it's big. It's a big deal. Sutekh is an Egyptian god of death. However, in the Doctor Who universe, the Egyptian gods are all just aliens from Mars, but because they have godlike powers, the human race assumed them as gods and started treating them as such. But anyway, Sutekh was banished essentially by Horus, yes, and then managed to break free in the episode, and then the Doctor eventually figures out a way to send him through a time tunnel, basically, that's never ending, so he'll never get to the end of it. He's stuck there forever, and that's where we leave Sutekh, okay? But he's back. How is he back? I don't know how he's managed to break back through. Interested to find out. In Pyramids of Mars, he does use people as harbingers? Little puppets. He has little puppet people. He's... You know what I mean? He uses them as his means of finding and building supplies for a rocket to get to Mars to basically be able to set him free. I think that's what's happening with Harriet from Unit, as well as Susan Triad, as well as maybe Mrs. Flood. But I've got other thoughts about Mrs. Flood, which I'll come to later. But I think them three could all be little puppets of Sutekh. People are saying that they think Sutekh's not going to be the only villain. I disagree. I think all we need is Sutekh. Him on his own is like Avengers level threat, terrifying. But I think it could be cool if somehow the Toymaker, the Maestro, the Trickster and Sutekh all Avengers assembled. That would be world ending. I do not know how they would get out of that situation, and that's why I don't think they'll do it, because how the hell would they defeat all four of them simultaneously, you know what I mean? Watching Pyramids of Mars, the return of Sutekh has been staring us in the face the whole time, because there's a scene with Sarah Jane And it's almost word for word exactly the same scene we see in The Devil's Cord. They managed to retrieve the TARDIS, and Sarah Jane's like, well, we can just go home then, we can escape. And the Doctor's like, no, because if we try to go to 1980 now, the world's going to be over. And she's like, bet. So he takes her to 1980 and it's a wasteland outside. And she's like, oh, we have to go back and fix it then. Does that sound familiar to you? Because that is the exact same scene from Devil's Cord. The script is almost word for word. How did this get past anybody? Not to mention the way the promo images with the colours and the dots is the same as the time tunnel that Sutekh gets sent back into. There are so many things that when I watched it I was like, it all makes sense now. I wish I'd have watched it earlier. I was theorising about Sutekh and I never took the time to go back and watch Pyramids of Mars. I'm so glad I have now, but I wish I'd done it earlier, because then I could have been real big brain. Speaking of Sarah Jane, I so wish Elizabeth Sladen was still around to be part of this. Imagine having her come back this episode, having faced Sutekh before. Rest in peace, man. Sarah Jane, what a huge loss. She's one of the most loved companions. And that's why I think they've brought Sutekh back, because the fourth Doctor is one of the most loved Doctors ever, and Sarah Jane is one of the most loved companions ever. So picking a story that's them two is an excellent callback to, like, the older fans maybe? Fans who grew up with Sarah Jane, or just people who grew up with Sarah Jane and never watched Doctor Who. Sutekh's hype as shit though, man. Like, I'm so excited. And the fact that they've managed to get the same voice actor who originally did Sutekh back in the 70s is crazy. Like, he must be knocking on, and his voice is one of the most eerie voices, the most evil sounding voices ever. And it just sends chills down my spine to know that he's back and to hear that voice again. And he also voiced the Beast in The Beast Below. People are saying there's a connection there, with it being like the Satan pit. But I don't know, is it the same? Obviously, Sutekh is a version of Satan. Could the Beast Below have always been Sutekh? I don't know if there's a connection there. I don't think there will be. I think they're just voiced by the same person, coincidentally, because he does have a very godlike, evil-sounding voice. The fact that they've even got him back is chef's kiss. Incredible. I really don't think that it matters if you've watched Pyramids of Mars already or not, because as I say, it's a two-parter. They're going to give us more information next week, hopefully, and all will be answered, and I think it will become irrelevant whether you've seen it before, but based upon the Doctor's reaction to knowing that it's Sutekh alone, any new fan is going to know, oh dear, we're in trouble here, you know what I mean? So, how do I think they're going to defeat Sutekh? Think about it. Ruby is the perfect foil to Sutekh. He's the god of death. Everything surrounding her is to do with birth. He produces sand and she produces snow. There's clearly something there which tells me that she's going to be the key to somehow defeating Sutekh. I don't know how, I don't know why, don't know when, but I think Ruby's going to be the key to solving this story. As with most Russell T Davies finales, he usually picks the special companion who comes in and is the most important woman in the world. The Doctor relies so heavily on his companions to save him sometimes without even realising. I really need to set off. I'm so late right now, I just looked at the time. Anyway, my predictions for the next episode. It's not even predictions at this point because I have no clue. I have no ideas. I'm lost. All my theories are redundant now. They have been answered. I have no further comments. But if we look at the open threads together, we might be able to figure something out. So what have we got going on? We've got Mrs. Flood, who is clearly not a good person, potentially a Time Lord, potentially the Rani, but the BBC don't have the rights to the Rani at the moment, so I don't think it's her anymore. I don't know who Mrs. Flood is, but she's not a good person, and Ruby's mum is now being sent home where Mrs. Flood is, so her mum's in danger, her grandma's in danger. We can assume that. We don't know who Ruby's mum is. I personally think the one dropping her off in the hooded cloak is Ruby, because timey-wimey, and we're probably gonna see Ruby meet her biological mum and have to take herself to the Ruby Road. Who her mum might be, I have zero idea. No idea, no clue. RTD has teased that there is a kind woman waiting with something vital. Who is that? People are saying River Song. I kind of hope not. I hope her story is nicely rounded off. I like it as it is. I don't know who else is left out there. There's me, there's Clara, there's a kind woman from far away. Who's been left far, far away? Apart from Clara and me and... People have said Martha Jones. I don't think it's Martha Jones. I will scream if it is Martha Jones. I will go absolutely bananas. Any ideas for that? Comment them below, please, because I'm clueless at this point and I want to know. I want to be able to theorise. I need more jigsaw pieces to be able to do so. So help me out, comment your theories below, and then I can get cracking and think about it, and I will discuss it with you guys. I like to go live on my TikTok and talk about Doctor Who every couple of days, so go follow me there if you want to see that. Follow me on Instagram. I have lots more going on there too. Other than that, I think that's it. I need to stop waffling on and get gone because I got things to do. That rhymed. I need to stop waffling on and get gone. That might be my new outro, guys. What do you think? Bye!